Hello, friends, neighbors, countrymen, enemies, and nemesises. This week, if you're OCD like me, you may realize that in certain cases, one topic doesn't really flow into the next topic quite as well as it usually does. There are a couple of reasons for this. The first is that the original tape was so long that I had to do some cuts, and I apologize for this. I usually do some editing, but there was a little more than usual this week. The second thing is, during the actual taping itself, the room started smelling really smoky, and I thought that maybe my equipment was on fire first, but no, it didn't seem to be the case. Then I thought maybe city council had banded together and they were going to light a pyre in my kitchen and they burned down my house, and that turned out not to be the case. It turned out to be a pot full of silicone baby bottle nipples that had been left out on the stove for too long, boiling, and the water had completely evaporated, leaving these nipples to melt and toxic fumes to come flying out of them into the upstairs bedroom. So this week, I'm happy to have, from the podcast Poorly Summarized, Michael Smith on the line, and he's all the way from Utah.
Salt Lake City, my friend. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, no problem. Listen, I've been listening to your show now for probably 2 or 3 weeks. No, maybe more, maybe a month. It's a really great concept. I mean, you just go through various social media, I guess, memes and tropes and kind of make fun of those. And it's almost like a little game show you've got going on there, too. Nice segments.
We actually started the show with an emphasis on serious content, and it wasn't as sustainable, like being informed to have an hour show, like ultra informed, you know what I mean, on all these heavy issues. So now we've reduced it where we have 1 or 2 kind of meaty stories, and the rest tend to be focused more on the comedy of it, like segments like Stupid Shit My Friends Post, or segments like Trumped Up, where you have to spot the fake Trump story or Trump quote.
You want me to call you Michael or Mike?
I don't have a preference. Most people call me Mike, but my friends call me Colonel.
Colonel?
Little known fact. You know Colonel Sanders? You've heard of Colonel Sanders, Kentucky Fried Chicken?
Yeah, well, yeah, of course. Colonel Sanders is everywhere.
He wasn't in the military. He was a colonel, a Kentucky colonel. This is like, you know how obviously England knights people as an honorary title? Well, the great Commonwealth of Kentucky does the same thing, right? The governor signs a certificate inducting you into the honorary fraternity of Kentucky colonels if you've done some sort of service to the state.
He provided chicken?
Who knows what he did? I had a friend that worked for the governor's office, and as a joke, I asked him to contact the office and get me inducted into the honorary fraternity of Kentucky colonels, and had the governor sign me a certificate. And just so as a joke, people would call me Colonel.
You were born to a proud Mormon stock, which is not unusual for Utah. I mean, Salt Lake City. Is it true? Like, when you were a kid, do you wear the underwear? Or is there special underwear when you grow up?
It's part of a series of ceremonies that you go through that you only qualify for as an adult, that involves going through those Mormon temples. There's, 100, 200 of them throughout the world. And it's an undershirt that just looks like a typical kind of undershirt, but it has markings on them that look like they're stitched in. And then you have just long white boxer like briefs. And you wear those, that's just like your underwear for the rest of your life.
Is that underwear made in like Utah or is that made in like Bangladesh?
No, it's absolutely made in Utah, and you can only buy it. You can't just get it, right? You have to go to special distributors.
Okay.
And I'll tell you, the underwear thing is ultra, like sacred for Mormons. Sacred. Mormons would call it sacred. People that aren't Mormon would call it secret. It's like, it's a really touchy subject because even the most entrenched Mormons understand that it's weird. Because I embrace the fringe myself and my personality, I like it. I always enjoyed explaining these weird things about my religion. Full disclosure, I'm no longer Mormon, but I kind of miss the immediate weirdness that it gave me.
Yeah, did anything kind of interesting happen, like when you
was a missionary?
Yeah, when you were a missionary.
Yeah, totally. So, I mean, we'd have a lot of weird times where people are just mean to us. But my favorite moment was So we're in teaching this guy. Teaching, I don't know if that's the word, but he's this intense guy, and we're in this intense debate. He's super evangelical. Mormons actively avoid arguing, with Christians. We're really trained to not, but he kind of sucked us in, and we're just getting into a fairly actually enjoyable yet intense debate about the Bible with this guy. And while we're doing it, this woman, beautiful woman and very sexual looking woman, walks into the house, the apartment, and asks to use the bathroom. And apparently he didn't even know her. Anyway, then she comes out, and she just comes and just starts taking off her clothes, like, while we're teaching him. And what's funny is she got fairly far along in her process of stripping before we kind of stopped everything, because we were in such an intense debate. So we're debating this guy, and as a Mormon missionary, this was more interesting than a beautiful woman stripping right next to us. Like, it's funny, and then finally the guy was like, "Whoa, what's going on? You guys got to get out of here," right? Because finally I look over, and the woman has her, she's on the couch, and she just has her legs over her head.
Oh my God.
And I remember I was like, "Oh, people pierce down there."
What?
I had, and let me mind you, I'd never seen, I had pretty much never seen pornography or anything at that point in my life. So it's like seeing any type of naked woman was very novel. But it wasn't like we were going to just sit down and enjoy the show. We just leave the apartment. I remember, and I'm still to this day friends with this guy I was a missionary with, and he left Mormonism maybe a year or two after he got home. But we just looked at each other as soon as we stepped out, and we just high-fived each other. That's what we did. But anyway, we went back the next, I don't know, later, and he was like, apparently he didn't know the girl, and he was just apologetic. He's like, this was like a prank. Somebody was like, "Hey, the missionaries went into this guy's building," and I think it was kind of a sober living home, and so it was a little more open door, kind of there's just a lot of people in and out, and so it was just a joke. She was pulling on us, and
wow. That's
anyway, it was just a funny experience for us, and I remember we just were amused. We weren't offended. He was, neither. My buddy was fairly not good at being Mormon anyway.
That sounds like sort of almost like an art student joke. I mean, that's it takes a certain kind of person to say, "Oh, I'm going to go play a joke on these Mormons by freaking them out by taking all my clothes off and go and spread eagle in a chair right there in front of them all." I mean,
yeah, I mean, she was probably drunk. I mean, she didn't seem at in a full state of soberness. But you just have a lot of novel experiences going door to door talking about religion, right? Which is there's one Mormon comic, Bent Washburn. He makes a joke there's obviously no worse icebreaker than religion, and he's like, you could just go around door to door asking people to look at your crotch rash, and you would have more success than if you're going around talking about religion. I was a stand-up comic also for a couple of years, but
wow,
right after my Mormon mission, I did stand up. I for a while I thought maybe that was going to be a career I would try.
Where did you do that? L.A.?
I did it in Utah, and I did it a little in L.A., but I did it mostly in Utah and in Ohio.
Okay.
Wow. So I'd perform a couple of days a week.
I could never. I mean, that's a personal thing for me, but that takes an enormous amount of courage, I think, to get up there and just do that. I don't know. Maybe I'd have to be more prepared.
Yeah, anybody can do it. I mean, you have to be willing to. Here's one thing: if you're going to do stand up, you're pretty much guaranteed. There's no way around it. You're going to not be laughed at or laughed with. People aren't going to laugh at your jokes. At some point, especially at the beginning, you're not going to be very good. So you have to be willing to bomb. And you have to be willing to be good in bomb as well. It's I see good comics bomb all the time. So it's not emotionally, it's pretty difficult. Because let's say if you're a musician, you have it doesn't go too well. It's not ultra obvious. You can maybe sense the energy in the room. But when somebody isn't laughing on cue and it's silent, it's painful. There's so much buildup to perform. So you're thinking about performing for a large chunk of the day, and then you perform. And if it goes well, it's just like such a, so cathartic, and it's just such a release of just such a, deep breath. But when you have all that build up and then you bomb, and let's say you bomb the whole set, wow, like it's depressing and lonely. You start out doing open mic, and when you kind of get used to it in a way, but most people on an open mic night are, don't do well. And so you see a lot of painful sets, and you do get a little used to it. But yeah, I don't know. I haven't done stand up in probably 2 years, because I still would do it occasionally, even though I've totally given up on being a comic, like, as a thing. But sometimes it's just fun to perform. But it's too much work emotionally, and writing jokes is such a laborious kind of creative project. I've got so many other creative projects. It's just I decided to just drop it altogether. So I think my days of performance are over. The podcast is a better outlet, I think, for me. So in Ohio, I lived next to these apartments that were just, regular apartments that were kind of low income when we moved in. But by the time we'd lived there for 5 years, the landlord had just pulled out, and everybody was squatting. There was nobody
like
that owned the place.
Super ghetto.
Oh yeah, so ghetto, and so there are drug dealers out, right next to my house every day. And the funny thing is, this didn't really bother me or frighten me, because I think a good drug dealer knows not to fuck with the neighbors, right? He comes over and he's like, "Hey, do you want to buy a couch?" And I was like, I don't like need a couch, but he's like, it's brand new. I'll give it to you for $20. And I was like, $20 for a brand new couch. And
Red
this was
flag.
like, it was like a $300 couch, not a super nice one. They sold them at Big Lots, because I saw it at the store later that week, for about $300. And red flag, I guess. But I was just like, this guy was always trying to sell stuff. And because clearly, as we've learned, he just steals stuff and just sells it on the cheap. We go over to the apartment. He's just like, "Okay, it's this couch, so let's just take it to your house." And I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." I honestly didn't think it. Just thought it was his place or something. We take it to my apartment. Walk it across the street, it was my house, and I put it on my porch. And he's like, we really better bring it inside. And I was like, "Oh no, we'll just keep it out here." I'm not in a hurry. And he's like, "I'm just really worried. If we keep it outside, it's going to get rained on." I'm like, "Well, it's a covered porch." I just feel better about it. And then, so at this point, he
doesn't even tell you.
Yeah, at this point, I realized that I just paid a guy $20 for the privilege
and
of
you
taking
didn't ask. You didn't ask for your $20 back. You'd already moved it by this point, right?
At this point, it's already there, and I'm like, I don't want to. It's like a weird scenario. Like, and this is what I'm totally Mormon at the time, and I'm like, I guess it doesn't matter. I still, even Mormon or not, I believe in being honest, but like, I just didn't know what to do, right? I don't want to, I'm like, you don't want to piss off the drug dealers. Like, no joke. So it's like, I now just have this couch and I realize what's going on. And I'm like, well, we'll just keep going. We'll just follow this transaction to its conclusion. So anyway, yeah. So for $20, I stole a couch for $20. I paid $20 to steal a couch. That's what I did.
It's better than stealing it yourself.
The only thing that made me mild, yeah, right. I could have stolen it myself for free, but instead I paid $20.
That's a finder's fee.
Yeah, right.
So it sounds to me like you're a really nice guy. And maybe
I try to be an
fault.
asshole. My Facebook persona is an asshole, but yeah, in person I'm so nice it makes you want to puke.
When I was actually this is the house that I'm in now. It's 1942, and we have an attic, and it was like minus 40, which is minus 40. I mean, it's just that Fahrenheit or Celsius, and we just heard this rustling noise in the attic. So it was actually open to the outside, and we had some renovations done. So unfortunately, this squirrel managed to get in. I went ahead and I bought like a cage, right, to like a humane trap, because at my work I was actually talking to this associate who is down in I think it's Tennessee or Alabama, one of those places. I'm just like, what should I do? And I was expecting him to say, whip out your gun and shoot that bastard. And I'm like, yeah, that's great. Good idea. But no, he's like, oh, you should be humane and, get a cage and catch the squirrel. And I'm
That's
like,
how I roll, dude. I take spiders out. I can't kill. And I love squirrels. But yeah, I
I
don't kill things.
murder spiders with glee.
Oh
And
God,
I
you're trying to hurt my feelings right now.
the
I can't kill any. Like when there's ants. Let's say occasionally when ants get in the kitchen, they have to be killed, right? You can't just let them. There's no humane way to get rid of ants that I know of. And so I leave the house, and my wife murders them all. And when everything's done, I go back in because I can't handle. I'm too sensitive
Wow.
to handle it. This is yes. It's like a pathology.
You're like a Jain or something. Like that's a religion
Yes.
thing. I mean, with me, I need to kill all the bugs. So my wife, she sees. So we have small centipedes, tiny centipedes. I have to kill those. Spiders, I kill those. It's an old house. There are bugs. Ants, Antigeddon. I murder those as well.
So my daughter killed a spider couple months ago, and I had a very long, hard talk with her about
See,
how we don't
see.
kill living things, and that being alive is very special.
That's nice. I mean, here's the thing. Okay, so when global warming goes out of control and all the insects are going to murder us, they're all at the door or coming through the cracks, and they're going to kill us all. So, I mean, you guys.
I may revise my policy if it comes to that.
I brought this up on another show. My wife, her family comes from Barbados, and so we stay there at a house occasionally, and they have centipedes there so big you have to hack them up with hatchets.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I remember that show when you talked about that. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's frightening. Mm-hmm.
So what would you do about that? I mean,
I lived in an apartment that had centipedes that scared the shit out of me. They look like spiders almost, and they're all over the place. I don't know what kind of centipedes they were, but no, I would just.
How about cockroaches? I can't handle cockroaches. The ones that jump are the worst.
We don't get them here, so it's not. I rarely see cockroaches in Utah, but no, they don't. No. Like to me, this is like insects are mostly beautiful to me. And I usually, if I see one, I want to get a good look at it and kind of figure out what it is. And I project quite a bit of humanity onto them incorrectly, but I just naturally emotionally do that. So no, it's a weird thing, but I'm a total hypocrite. We've talked about this in Poorly Summarized as well. I mean, I still eat the shit out of meat, and that's deeply immoral because I mean, these animals that I eat are been tortured their whole life.
Even eating bugs,
then they kill them.
I mean, eating bugs is probably better than eating a.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. But I think
bacon sandwich.
At least with the thing I find about killing like spiders, I guess that might potentially be a moral issue is like I just think you can easily humanely get rid of them. They don't need to be killed. But I'm just so weird about this. I sound preachy right now. That's not how I roll because I know that my behavior is almost pathological. So I try not to project that onto other people.
Yeah, I have the same problem where like I eat meat, but I feel kind of guilty about it afterwards.
I don't know that I feel guilty. I just think objectively that what I do is deeply immoral. I feel like maybe I could rob a bank and that would be less immoral than eating meat.
I think we have a few things in common. When I was listening to Poorly Summarized, I noticed that maybe you had maybe not so much of a moneyed upbringing, just like me, because I mean,
my dad was a high school janitor until he retired.
Wow, really? Okay, yeah. So there's that. My dad just seemed to be not very good with money, but basically,
my dad did rob banks as well, for the record.
Oh, really? Well, the previous guest I had, his mom actually, both of his parents were actually convicted felons. But he robbed banks. Oh.
I mean, he did. He got caught and sent to jail, and then he escaped. But so anyway.
Yeah, but that doesn't always work out, though, because, I mean, when you escape from jail, don't they usually find you and put you back?
He was in another country.
Oh.
He did it in Korea. during the war.
Okay, well,
So, no big deal.
Yeah, I mean, that was back in the 50s. They didn't have photography or anything back then, so it's fine.
But I cut you off. You were saying something about your upbringing as well. You were saying it was
it wasn't exactly moneyed. I had a bingo job, so I had a job at a bingo parlor where, and this was the worst. I thought I would get lung cancer and die. Like, I was in a room full of the most unpleasant and angry old women I've ever met. And they're all chain smoking, and they're all saying, I'll take a red and a blue and a number 3 and a number 5. And I'm supposed to know what like combo of bingo card this all is. They'd all call me sweetheart or sunshine or something while they were doing it. And this like, go get me a card, in that kind of voice.
Sunshine.
Yeah, exactly. And that was pretty brutal.
I'm flattered anytime anybody calls me sunshine. I wish you'd call me that more often.
There we go.
Listen, sweetheart. I'm just going to call you either sunshine or sweetheart for the rest of the show.
There we go.
Yeah, I mean, likewise, I've just had... That's the thing. If you kind of grow up poor and you want to like succeed and you want to like kind of travel, go to other places away from your family for school, etc., you've got to be able to hustle to make money to pay the bills, right? That's just how it goes, because you just don't have any, there's no safety net. So I found that if you're literally willing to do anything, you can kind of get a job at any point, right? My first job when I moved to Ohio, I had this job like the day after I moved there. And there's this disabled woman. And also, like when you talk about those bingo ladies, she was very angry. I think she was also slightly mentally disabled, but she was just emotionally unstable, and she couldn't move any of her body. She had some kind of some condition. I don't know what it was called, but it was some kind of some type of arthritis where all of her joints had frozen up. And then on top of that, she had psoriasis over her entire body. And so what my job essentially was to go she had a weekly bath, and it took about 4 hours, like 4 to 5 hours. And I would deflake her. So, and we called it that, deflaking her. We couldn't use gloves. That was a rule. And believe it or not, you do get used to it. But essentially, she'd be in the tub, and I would just rub her skin. As her skin kind of rolls off, her body, like
that. Sounds disgusting, but it might actually, after a while, it might actually get strangely satisfying.
Not as I know where you're going with that, because you could think it'd be satisfying the same way it's maybe satisfying to like get dead skin off of your own body.
Yeah.
But it never did get satisfying. The grossness did go away, except she really liked how I was strong enough to really get it out of her scalp. And so I would have to dig my fingers, like claw. I would claw her scalp for like 45 minutes.
Another good one, I guess, that I've had is I was called in one day, and they asked me, it was a city job, and they asked me, have you ever done jackhammering? I'm like, no. And they're like, it's not so hard. Why don't you come on over? So I go there.
What could go wrong?
Yeah.
Sounds safe.
And they make me sign this document. And then
sure.
They're like, okay, put these waders on. So I'm like, what? And they put these waders on me, and they give me this jackhammer, and it's just the three of us. There's like one guy who presumably knows what he's doing, and then there's 2 students, me and some other guy. And we're standing with waders, and the water's up to our waists, and it's about it's got to be like at least 90 degrees, okay?
But you're in the cool water.
No, this water was pretty warm. You try to do your thing. I couldn't even believe that I was doing this, right? I was jackhammering under the water, and we were trying to remove rebar from the bottom of this bridge, the floor underneath the water. So I guess underneath the water, underneath the bridge. So we would reach the rebar, and the hammer would either pound on the rebar, or the hammer would sometimes go under the rebar, and that would send us flying out forward into the water. And
that's how you found it.
So yeah, right. And so the jackhammer would go flying off somewhere, like still
Sounds
going
safe.
for a couple of seconds, and I would go flying in another direction, and of course the water would go into my waders. It was warm water, like kind of stagnant warm water. So after all this was done,
I can imagine if you're jackhammering in the water, you're in some pretty murky, gross water as well.
You can't see anything anyway. It's all kind of muddy. So after this horrible job, and the guy's like, "Well, are you going to come back tomorrow?" I'm like, "No, I don't think so. No, thanks." I get home, and I've got like at least 5 or 6 leeches attached to me. On top of everything else, right? I just jobs like this. I've had many like this. So, Mike, tell me a bit about your job. So you're an architect, and you also like draw these little pictures, diagrams, I guess. Of course you're an architect, but do you know what I'm talking about? Like you're not just drawing like floor plans.
No. So, as my job, I do just conventional buildings, and I just finished a high school that was a good project, and I do that, but also on the side I do my artwork for fun to kind of stay sane and have a working in the profession of architecture isn't a great creative outlet. There is some creativity, of course, but it's not creatively heavy by and large, and so I do art as well. I would say I do these maniacally detailed ink drawings. This one project I'm like 400 or 500 hours into, that's 6 feet by 3 feet. I've essentially taken I cut a building. It's called a section cut, and I'm kind of cartooning what's happening inside with as much detail as possible. It's just a kind of a voyeuristic drawing of what's happening in this kind of this architectural world. It's a kind of a fantastic building, a fantastic meaning, not real fantasy. But anyway, so yeah, I just chip away at it little by little. It's been exhibited before because it's kind of, I don't know when it'd be done. It could be done now, or I just keep drawing.
Sorry, is this like one big drawing, or is it just many drawings?
No, it's one big drawing. I do other drawings as well, but this is the one I've been working on for years. I just keep going.
So, Mike, thanks for being on the show. Can you let us know your Twitter and maybe the Twitter for Poorly Summarized podcast as well, and the site?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm actually very active on Twitter, and I appreciate people reaching out. I love to respond to tweets, but I am personally at Probably For Sale, and then Poorly Summarized is at Poor Summary.
Thanks so much for being on the show, Mike.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Well, that was the interview. I hope you enjoyed it. You can listen to previous interviews, all you like, over at shareslicepodcast.com. So next week, I'm happy to have Jeff Mack.
Hi, this is Jeff Mack from the Super Pee-Pee Time podcast, and if you like listening to my voice like you're doing right now, you really need to listen to this podcast, Share a Slice, next week, because I will be using my voice on it to make words to tell sentences to you.
You really ought to check this podcast out. I know it sounds ridiculous. You're either going to love it or you're going to hate it. So you would go to SoundCloud and you can just do a search for Super Pee-Pee Time, and believe me, they're the only ones that show up. Remember that you can go to iTunes and you can leave us a rating. 5 stars would be perfect. 4 stars is great. 3 stars, you know what? Give me as many stars as you think I deserve. Whatever. It really helps the show out. And if you could leave a review, that would be fantastic. If I had a way to give you $1 million, I would. But I don't have $1 million, and I don't know who you are. Likewise, remember that all the music on this episode is done by Chromatics Music. You can check them out at soundcloud.com, and it's used with permission. Thanks so much for listening, guys. Hope you come back next week. And what I did with it is, okay, hold on just a sec, okay? There's like something making a very, very not good smell. So just a sec.
Don't edit that out.
Well, I'm not able to localize what it is, but I think if anything bursts into flames, you'll know because I'm going to jump up at some point.